Howdy, with this video I want to go over MLA formatting. Not the most thrilling subject to talk about, but it's important for essay writing because you need to document sources when you use them in your essay. And that's the whole point of MLA formatting. MLA stands for Modern Language Association. There are other types out there, APA, Chicago style, but we're going to be working with MLA formatting. And there's basically two concepts to all the different forms of documenting your research. One, you need to credit your sources. If you're reading something I've written, I write five years from now, and you're like, "Wow, Mr. Fish is awesome." Hey, wait a minute, I wrote that. He stole my work. You'd have every right to be upset. You could sue me for tens of dollars. More importantly, you can probably get me fired because my dean expects me to know not to steal other people's work, right? Um, in the same vein, you have to use sources fairly. I can't say according to you, yada 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 yada, and then you read my thing and go like, I never said that. He put words in my mouth that he shouldn't have. You'd probably be even more upset than I would just than if I just stolen your work word for word, right? So you want to credit sources, you want to use sources fairly. That's what all this is about. Everything I'm going to talk about is down here on the help material link on the content page. One, there's an MLA lecture. If listening to a video doesn't really do it for you, you can go by, take your time and read through the lecture. Again, it's not the most exciting thing, but it's fairly short. And shows you how to do a works citus page, how to cite the sources in your essay, how to quote, summarize, paraphrase, which I'm about to go over here as well. And plus, we're going to practice with our essays. And again, I'm here to help you. You're not on your own trying to figure all this out. But I want to look at the sample research medical essay. Let me download it. It's a little easier if I download it. This is a sample essay. And I use it to just kind of show the basics, the components of MLA formatting. But for MLA formatting, can we move it over? I guess not. MLA formatting starts with what's called the works citus page. And I'm scrolling all the way down through the essay because the works citus page is the last page in the essay. And what this is a listing of the sources. There we go. That'll make it bigger. The sources you use in your essay. So like with this career essay we're going to start, you're going to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You're going to have to go to the Northeast State catalog to credit your academic plan, and maybe one or two other sources, to discuss whatever you're going to talk about in your essay. But the works citus page just lists the sources you use in your essay. For this first essay, I want you to send me the web address where you're getting your information from. Just send me that link, and I will create the works citus page for you. I want you to kind of see how that works as you work on your essay. With the second essay, the MLA medical, the last one we're going to do, hopefully you're going to be able to give it the old college try there. But you're going to see with the works citus page, everything's in alphabetical order. There's a reason for that. You have the hanging indents. If you go to the next line, as you're putting all this information in there, you should be indenting it. Everything's formatted in a particular way, and that's what drives students crazy, or, or makes them a little, flustered. And everything's double spaced once. It's the last page on your essay. But again, it's just a listing of the sources you're going to use in your essay. So this, you can see some of these in this essay are getting a little dated. But this first source is just coming from of the World Book Family Reference Suite, CD-ROM probably going back in the day to 1999. This one's a book entry. There's different ways to do each type of source. And again, I'm going to do the first one for you, the first works citus page for you, and then you're going to do your own with the last essay. But as you're using sources in your essay, there's 4 different ways to use sources. If I won't make it too small. You can do short quotes, which I'll find here momentarily. There we go. Probably what you're used to doing. Short quotes, the quotes of 3 or fewer lines. You put them in quote marks. You introduce them. So there's the quote marks. You introduce the quote. Don't make a quote its own sentence, right? You put the quote word for word within the quote marks. Then you need your citation. And what I mean by citation is when you see all these words in parentheses, that's the source that information is coming from. You can do it at the end of when you're done using the source, like this in parentheses. You can do it in your introduction, like right here. So researchers Michael Castle, Dolores Thompson, and Matthew Nathan's report. She gives the short quote. Then you have the page number if you have one. If it's an internet source, you won't have a page number. If it's a PDF file, then you will have a page number. So it gets a little complicated. Not too bad. But that's when we say you're missing your citation. That's what we're talking about. Where did this information come from? Particularly if you're giving me numbers, that information is coming from somewhere, and you need to document that information. But what happens is I should be able to go to the Works Cited page, see Michael Castle there, and he better be there, or the student's going to be in trouble. And I can see which source that came from, and there it is. It comes from this book, so I could go to page 37, I think it was, open that book to that page 37 and see that exact quote and see exactly where she got that information from, right? And that's how MLA works. Every citation you see, that's the writer saying, I got this information from McNamara here. And I should go to the Works Cited page, and there's Susan McNamara. I could go to that source and see that information. That's the basics right there. But the short quote, 3 or fewer lines. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy by scrolling like this. The short quotes are the only things that get short the quote marks. Long quotes are 4 or more lines. You can see them pretty quickly because they're tabbed twice. They're offset. You want to block the whole quote over once beyond the paragraph level, the paragraph indentation level, generally 1 inch. But long quotes are, again, word for word. Quotes have to be word for word. You don't want to change them. If you do have to change them, you want to use brackets to show the changes, or in addition to a quote, if you have to add something to clarify it, don't just do it. Make sure you put it in brackets to show the change. When you see ellipses, these 3 dots, that's showing they took something out of a quote. So if you watch the news and they're quoting, say, President Trump, and you start seeing these ellipses come in, or they start using those brackets, they're changing the quote. Some news organizations have gotten in trouble for changing quotes and changing the meaning. Again, this documentation is very important. There's another use of the brackets. She probably just added the word or in there to make it grammatically correct. But again, long quotes are tabbed over. You still want to introduce them, and you're still going to cite that information. Again, you can do it in the introduction. Here she's doing it in the introduction. It's good to kind of mix it up a little bit. But I should go to the Works Cited page, see that Carroll source. I'm having trouble finding my things there. There's David Carroll. That's a book source. I should be able to go to that page, open it up, and see that long quote right there in that source, right? And that's how it works. For summary, you shorten and condense material in your own words and sentence structure. But you still have to give credit to the source of that information. Sometimes this is where students get a little off. Whenever you use somebody else's information in your essay, you have to cite that source, even if you put it in your own words and sentence structure. So here, there's no quote marks around this passage. You can see the citation with McNamara. This is probably a summary. She's probably taken a bunch of information, put it in her own words and sentence structure, put it in her essay, and cited it, and that's perfectly legitimate. But again, if I'm seeing number figures, that's coming from somewhere, and I'm expecting to see a citation about where that came from, and there it is. Paraphrase is the last way you can use sources. Generally, a paraphrase is going to look the same as a summary. Whoops, not highlighting. Well, it's already kind of highlighted anyway. And one reason I'm looking at this particularly sample essay because it has the notes on the side, kind of showing you, here's a good paraphrase, here's a good summary. Again, paraphrases in your own words and sentence structure. But generally, with a paraphrase, you want to restate what the original says. You don't want to leave any main points out. So, say you're talking about brain surgery. Short quote's not going to hack it because it's going to be too short. Long quote might be in doctor speak, and I'm an English teacher. And if it gets too technical, I'm going to say, hey, you should paraphrase this so your poor English teacher can understand what's going on. If you're trying to summarize brain surgery, you're going to leave a scalpel or some sponges in someone's head. So you might end up doing a paraphrase where you restate all the main points, but in your own words and sentence structure. But you're still getting that information from somewhere, so you need to cite that source, right? And generally, within an essay, paraphrases and summaries kind of look the same, but generally paraphrases look longer. It's kind of more about your intention than what it looks like in the essay. But here's a kind of a long passage talking about the moderate stage of dementia. And she kind of puts all this in her own words and sentence structure. Maybe the original was too technical or something. It's hard to tell until you go check that source. But notice at the end, she cites that and tells us where that information is coming from. And we've already seen Carol on the works cited page, so we know it's there. But that's how MLA formatting works. You want to start with the works cited page, so it's easier to cite things in your essay. You notice that's why the works cited page is alphabetized. So if I'm going to go find Carol, I want to do it pretty quickly. I don't want to have to, read every single source on there. I just go down alphabetically. Boom, there it is. It's easy to see because of the hanging indents as well. So there's a reason for they do all that. They have us do all that. But that's kind of the basics of MLA formatting. It's hopefully you can look at a sample essay and kind of see how it's working. So when you go back to that help material page and you look at that sample career essay that's up there, when you're looking at it, I'm going to download this. It's just easier for me. When you're looking at this as maybe guide for your essay, keep in mind Joseph was as a dual enrollment student. He's moved on to Vanderbilt. So when you're reading this, don't be too intimidated. He's just a good writer and very motivated student. But when you start seeing these citations, he's telling you, hey, I'm getting this information from somewhere. And you kind of see there's no quote marks. It's not offset. So this is a summary or paraphrase. But this information is coming from somewhere. And he's telling us exactly where it's coming from. And again, he's given us a lot of technical information, and again, he's going to cite the source of that information. And that looks like a summary paraphrase, might be a paraphrase there. But every time he's using a source, he's citing it. I'd like to see that citation right behind the quote, but he's still telling us where the information is coming from. You're going to see the citation for the academic plan there. Generally, with charts and graphs, you want to give the whole citation. But again, if you want to see where he's getting this information from, you can look at estimated there. That's the citation for the paraphrase. There's this long quote. But you can go see these sources on the works cited page, looking for estimated and united. And there's estimated. I could go to that source, see if his information is accurate that he used. Down here's the Department of Labor source, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. There's that United States source. So hopefully when you start looking at sample essays, it's starting to make sense there. Hopefully you can kind of see what the citations are doing. They're telling you where that information is coming from. And kind of try and pay attention to whether the person using short quote, long quote, summary or paraphrase, because you're going to be doing that in your essay. But hopefully that helps them make a little more sense. Takes a little practice, but don't get too anxious about this. I'm here to help you. Again, I'm going to do the first works cited page for you, but be sure to keep track of where you're getting your sources from. Where you're getting your information from, so I can do that for you. But if you have any questions, be sure to let me know. But we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.